Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2Us of 2Us Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2Us Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode.
Hey, Marsha.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, it's been exciting here.
I know. I can hardly wait to hear.
Oh, man, yes. I will definitely be talking about the fleece auction.
Okay.
So, yeah,
all right.
That was very fun. But first, I think we should talk about our projects.
Well, I'm just going to be rude and just go first. Because also, can you hear my needles?
I can hear them.
I'm tapping my needles together. I'm
click,
working
click.
the clickety-clackety of my project. So, I'm still working on the Frank Spirt yarn Afghan. That's the Garter Squish Afghan by Stephen West. And
You've been practicing saying that.
I know. That's so funny. Anyway, I've been working on this pretty steadily. I'm not really working on anything else but this. And I'm now on my 6th color. So I've got in maroon, gold, Kelly green, I should say, fuchsia, and now I'm working on the purple. I'm adding that. It is interesting. It's just about the colors, because I've talked about this before in the podcast, that everybody who looks at the colors has an opinion about the order the color should go in. And then also, even I began to sort of second guess myself, not necessarily the order, but how they're going to look, because the main color is kind of it's a blue, like a denim blue kind of, or indigo blue.
Yeah.
Kind of a little lighter than that. And
it's not really a navy, but it's not like a royal blue either.
Yeah. And I started out I love the maroon, I love the gold, I love the Kelly green. But then all of a sudden, the really bright acid lime green that I had dyed, to me, I thought, oh my gosh, it's so bright. And I thought, go for it, put it in. So I put it in. And just because it's not plied with the blue, obviously, I'm just carrying it along, it changes the look of the yarn when you have it with the blue. So you can still, that sounds kind of weird what I'm saying, but it's, it's still that bright green, but it's now tempered somehow, or it changes the look of it somehow when it has the blue. My brother had said, don't put the purple in because... Well, we all know how he feels about purple. His point was the purple was sort of the same value as the blue, and he felt the other colors were so strong that it was going to look sort of lost. And I thought, oh heck, I'm putting it in anyway, and it looks great. Yeah. Even though they are very much the same value, you can still see there's a difference in the two colors. It's just interesting to watch this whole process. I do want to let you know, Kelly, about remember our math? We're trying to figure out the math about how many stitches I should cast on. And I'm curious to see how this is going to be when I actually am done and I bind off. But I cast on 184 stitches, and the plan was that this would be the width of the Afghan would be 5.5 feet. And I just measured it before we started recording, and it's 6 feet wide. So I don't know if our calculations were wrong. I don't think that's true. I think
maybe
probably
your gauge is different now that it's a bigger, it's not a swatch. It's
maybe that's entirely possible.
And it may just be that it's kind of stretching.
Yeah,
because there's so much weight to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Incidentally, this is just a side note because I'm always go off on little tangents. About science. I had never seen that movie, The Martian, that came out a year and a half ago. I don't remember. And my brother has a copy of it. And so I went over there and we watched that movie. I love that movie because science saves people's lives. So that movie's, did you ever see it, Kelly?
I read the book. I did not see the movie, but I read the book. But the whole time I read it, I thought, okay, I'm going to bring that to my calculus class. Oh, I'm going to bring that one to my calculus. Oh, this one's going to go to my math class. I'm going to talk about this in my class. Yeah, it was very cool.
It was a very cool movie. I just love the fact that just that science, saves people's lives. And and then the other thing I really liked about it is this notion is a lot of times when you have movies about outer space, and the astronauts are in a voyage someplace, there's always one astronaut that's working for the KGB or working for some terrorist organization or something, And in this movie, there's none of that. Nobody dies.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I'm sure everybody. But
if you haven't seen it already.
I know. I'm sorry. I kind of assume everybody's seen it because it was such a popular movie when it first came out. I'm kind of behind the times not having seen it.
I think it's fair game to say that.
But also the idea that everybody works together as a team. Mm-hmm. I just love that idea because that just never happens in Hollywood movies. There's always somebody up in space or somebody at mission control or something that's, trying to do something bad. And
some
so this
bad
is just,
guy.
Some bad guy. And I just thought it was a really fabulous movie. So that's just a side note. But anyway.
But I have to ask you, okay.
Yes.
Is this side note coming from you did math to figure out how many stitches to cast on, and then that led to science saves lives?
This is how my brain works. I did math to figure out how many stitches to cast on. So it's kind of like I'm an astronaut.
I love it.
I'm not saving lives, but it's still math.
You saved your knitting.
Yeah, right.
Very cool.
Anyway. Yeah, no, that was my math thing. So I'm still working on it, and I really like it. But the other thing I should say now, it's so big and heavy, it's not very portable anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, like I brought it over when my brother and I watched the movie. I brought it because that's easy to take it. I'm just sitting there. But if I'm just knitting for a few minutes here or there, it doesn't come with me because it's just too massive now. But and because it's so massive and I can't take it with me everywhere, I've picked up the Havasu Falls shawl that I'm making by Alison LoCicero. So I've done a little, I maybe knit an inch of it or something. Not a whole lot, just, so I'm making progress on that.
So you've got a second project that's a little more portable.
I have my backup portable project.
Oh, that's good.
However, it's so fine and so dark. I have to be someplace where it's light. And you've seen my brother's house.
Oh,
and
you know how dark knit that.
I cannot knit at his house. I mean, I cannot knit on that Havasu Falls at his house. And then my other project is, I mentioned this last episode, but in honor of Labor Day, because you went to the wool auction at the Monterey County Fair, I washed the black fleece that I bought in June at the Black Sheep Gathering in Eugene, the one that we split. So because you've washed yours already, haven't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So I washed and that was, it's a Wensleydale-Cormo-Merino cross. And so I washed that on Monday, and it's still drying because it was pretty thick.
It's really dense, yeah. I wonder if that's I think Cormo. I think maybe that might be the Cormo and Merino that's making it so dense. But I have locks of all of the fleeces that I bought at Black Sheep still sitting on the vanity in the dressing room area in the bedroom. And I took it out today to look at it, remembering that you had said you washed it. And so I was playing around with it. And I was thinking the same thing, that it's really, really dense.
Yeah. And then I was surprised that when I washed it, I had to wash it, I'm thinking like 5 bucketful, 5 to 6.
Oh, wow.
Actually, maybe I did 6 washing. I washed it, with the Dawn. Oh, I don't want to get into that controversy, but I washed it with Dawn. I did it with a little bit not milder, but a weaker solution of the Dawn the second time, and then 4 or 5 rinses. And it was surprising how dark the water was. It was almost the color of coffee. And for a moment, I thought, I wonder if that fleece, what attracted to me to that fleece is it looked almost like licorice. It was so black and dark and shiny because of the lanolin. It's not shiny anymore now because the lanolin is out of it. But I actually had that moment thinking, is it still going to be black? Or is it all just... And guess what? It's still just as black as it was. So yeah.
Well, I'm anxious to look at mine, and I may need to wash mine again. I oftentimes will wash a fleece, and then when I start working with it, realize, oh wait, it's a little bit, kind of jump the gun on being finished. And realize when I start working on it that it's still a little sticky. So,
well, and I think I may have to do the same thing too because I just use straight hot water from the tap to fill up the bucket, and I don't know why, but this happens. But the stationary tub in the basement, when you turn the no cold water, but just have the hot water tap full on, then the pipes start like banging in the wall. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Now you have the on-demand system, so you probably don't have that problem. But
no.
So you only can turn the hot water on maybe like a quarter of the way on. Otherwise, the pipes start banging in the wall, and it always makes me worried that I'm going to damage them or something. So the upshot is it takes a really long time to fill up a 5-gallon bucket. So I mean, it took me half the day to wash this thing because it took so. So that's if I ever get my dream studio, I'll have water on demand. I mean, a hot water on demand system. So I don't think I wouldn't like. I know people who have the on demand water heater for their shower. And the one thing I notice about the on demand water heater is that it significantly reduces the water pressure. So I don't know that I would like it for household use, like in showers and things. But it takes forever to fill my washer because it's not coming out full blast. The water pressure decreases significantly, but it's still better than what you're talking about. Yeah. And I can get it really cranked up hot, and I don't have to worry that I am going to scald the next person who takes a shower when I forget to turn the hot water heater back down because it's just the laundry. That hot water heater. Oh yeah, because you have a separate building for the laundry, right?
Yeah, the laundry's out in our garage, and there's a separate water heater for the garage. Yeah.
But and the other thing I'll just mention too about the fleece, and this has nothing to do about the fleece, but I developed a system for drying it, and I've heard of this before, but I had forgotten. But there's a storage area underneath the basement stairs, and I discovered in there that I have screens. That for like the screen door, I don't know which door they are supposed to go on because I have the front door and the back door both have screens. I don't know where these screens were supposed to go, but anyway, I found them so I just washed those off, and so I have the fleece just lying on the screen, and then I set that on top of. I have one of those drying racks for clothes. They're. They collapse.
Like accordion.
Yeah, I have one of those, and I just set the screen on top of that, and then I have a fan that I laid, flat down on the ground so that I kind of propped it up so there's air movement, and then it's just blowing air up towards the fleece. So that's my system. I developed. So it seems like it's working pretty well.
That's a good. That's a good system.
So anyway,
I like screens. I have some window screens that I took with us from the other house.
I was glad I found these because I was thinking like this summer when I started, or whenever I first started washing these fleeces, I didn't have a very good system, and I had this whole idea about how I wanted my, Ben to build me one and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, this was much easier just using the window screen. And there's in Ballard, we have a place where they sell recycled building materials, and and I was meaning to go down there and see if they had any, and then I'm really glad I looked under the porch.
Voila, you had your own.
Not the porch, but under the stairs, because there they were. So anyway. But that's it for me on projects. Not super. I've not really completed a lot, but I am working pretty steadily on this.
You have completed a lot on that one project. You're like in your 6th stripe, I think, now?
Yeah, and I have 13 colors with one extra skein of undyed yarn that I'm trying to decide if I'm going to use it or not. I don't know.
So you're almost halfway finished.
Well, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, you're right.
That's a lot. It's only been 2 episodes that you've been talking about it since you actually started knitting.
Yeah, maybe it has. I guess I don't know. I have to look. I don't remember now what day I actually start. Yeah, when I actually started this. But anyway, I will stop talking about my projects. Isn't it funny? I have so much to say when I really only have 3 things I've done.
I can tell you when you started because I have your project page up.
Oh, you do? Okay.
To interrupt you, August 4th.
Oh, okay.
So a month.
So
you've only been knitting on it for a month.
Okay. Well, I'm so impressed with myself.
Yeah, that's very good.
The last thing I will just say, and I don't remember if I've mentioned this before, but my hands get really tired. I think it's a combination of the large needles and also garter stitch I don't like the stitches don't slide along the needles very well. You have to kind of push them along, and I don't know if that's just the nature of garter stitch or maybe it's the weight of all of this project. I don't know, but
it might be the weight and also the double-stranded yarn.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes my hands get really tired, but no, seriously, cool. That's really all I have to say about my projects.
All right. Well, like you, I was inspired by the fleece auction to do some work with my fleece.
Okay.
I've been spinning a lot. I've been spinning the same California variegated mutant for 3-ply. So I'm working on that, and then I have the bulky version of that same California variegated mutant. It's sort of a tan color. So I'm spinning the bulky weight yarn on the Salish spinner or the Indian head spinner that I have. So I've been working on that, and that is old fleece, right? That's like
10 years old?
Over. We've been in this house 11 years this month, and I started it before. I had that fleece. Oh, wait, maybe not. Maybe I bought that fleece the year we moved here. So maybe 11 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I finally sent it. This was one of those things that I finally decided I was going to send it out to be processed. It sat in the garage for a long time. And I was laughing with somebody else about this, that I thought, okay, I'll send this out to be processed. So I send it off to be processed, which is great because it freed up a whole bunch of space in the garage. And then it comes back. Bigger. Way bigger. Because it's been all fluffed up. And
yeah.
So, but it was processed by YOLO Fiber Mill, which is I think it's in Dixon or Woodland. It's in Woodland, I think, California, near Sacramento.
I remember driving by that area when I was coming down to visit you.
Yeah.
Because I thought YOLO meant you only live once. Oh. It's actually, YOLO is actually a place.
It's it really the name of the county. Yeah.
Yes.
It's in YOLO County. You only live once.
That's because I have a teenager. I know what YOLO means.
Oh, that's funny. Well, apparently it also means something else. I would guess something in some Indian language. Some Native American language.
In some Native American language, it means you only live once.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So yeah, I've been playing with that, trying to get that spun up. I'd like to have that all spun. It's been long enough, and I need to get it spun, and I have some ideas for what I want to do with it, but I'll talk about that later. And then I washed one of the fleeces from Black Sheep Gathering. Well, actually, I washed half of one of the fleeces. It's the white. It looks really golden, really pretty, and like the golden fleece, but it's white once you wash it.
Is that the one with the really, really long...
Yes.
Fiber? Okay,
yeah. I believe it's a Lincoln Border Leicester cross, and it has really long locks with a big open crimp. It's really nice. So I washed that, and then I started carding. I have a brown Targhee cross lamb fleece from last year's wool auction, and then I have the Rambouillet that we split from last year's wool auction, and I carded. I had carded some of that with Angora and spun it up, and then I carded some more just by itself, and I dyed some of it before washing, just threw some locks into the crock pot, which was fun. And that was kind of inspired by the fact that the garage studio lights and electrical system got finished. So it's like, wow, now I can use my electrical outlets. And so I was crock potting, and I had a pot on I have a single burner. I had a pot on the burner I was dyeing in, and so that was pretty fun. But a lot of it was kind of like, okay, let's do something with these fleeces I have because I want to go to the fleece auction.
Isn't it funny how a fleece auction motivates us to do something with the stuff that we already have?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then while I was dyeing the fleeces, or the parts of, I was dyeing very little of the fleeces, just a small amount. But while I was dyeing the parts of the Rambouillet fleece, I also I think it's a color, the color is what I want. I finished dyeing the yarn that I bought to make that octopus, Opus, the octopus.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up, and I started dyeing that in 2014. And
Kelly, I do know that the last 4 times I've come down to visit, it's been hanging off the back of the bathroom door of the guest room.
Mm-hmm.
So,
when we moved
it's been a while.
When we moved into the guest room, I moved it into the other bedroom, so it was hanging off of the closet door in there. And I finally took it out to the garage once I had electricity out there, and that's what I was waiting for. I just didn't have electrical outlets on my dyeing bench in the garage. No. When I started, I'll tell you what happened. When I started, I got all the dye ready, and I was going to dye it in layers because I knew I wanted kind of a mottled orange color. Then I wanted kind of a mottled yellow for the underside of the tentacles. So I got it all ready to dye, and I brought it in. And I started mixing the dye in the kitchen. This was before I had the benches out in the garage. And my dye pot leaked. You know, I have all these old things that I've gotten from the Goodwill and things that I've had that I just have kept over the years. Well, apparently if you don't dry them out really well after you use them and clean them and put them away, over time you rust little holes in your dye pot. So I had this enormous, I think it was for making tamales. It was a big dye pot that I had. I had been using it a long time ago and then moved it here and hadn't used it in a while. Anyway, when I put all the yellow dye in it, all of a sudden I had yellow dye going all over my kitchen, down into the stove. And it's like, okay, what is happening here? So that was an aborted dye attempt, and I stopped. And then I just never did the second and third layers of color. So, but now it's done, I think. I think it's the way I want it. And so one of these days I'll be casting on that octopus. It's such a cool thing. I really love it. There's a part of me that thinks, okay, this would be a good toy for my grandnephew who I think really likes octopuses. They go to the aquarium and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's like over $50 worth of yarn. And there's another part of me that thinks, maybe I want this octopus in my office at work.
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll see how I feel about it once it's done. I mean, I do not really need toys hanging around the house.
Right.
But I want to make it. I think it's a really cool thing. So
have you started a project page for it?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right.
I don't think so. I did not. I don't even think it's in my stash. I don't think I ever put that yarn in my stash. Yeah, it's Knit Picks DK Bear yarn that I bought. So that was all just dyeing and carding and spinning stuff. But I also continue to work on the Funky Grandpa. Mm-hmm. And I got one sleeve all the way down, and now I have to put the ribbing on the sleeve. Mm-hmm. So I think the last episode I had ripped out a sleeve and started it again. I don't remember if I said that or not, but I had done it badly, and so I redid it. But I'm done with one sleeve, so now I have to pick up the stitches for the other sleeve.
What did you do differently this time that you liked how you picked? Because I sometimes struggle with picking up stitches to make it look nice.
Yeah, I went in from the edge. I had picked up edge stitches, and this has happened to me before where I've picked up edge stitches, and it's like I'm struggling to pick up the edge stitches. Just pick up stitches in a little bit from the edge and have a seam on the inside, and it looks much better.
Yeah. I know I never want to do that because I think it's going to be too bulky, but that's not true.
For a sleeve, I think, it's better. On a heel flap, usually if I slip the first stitch on each side for a heel flap, then it's fine. I can pick up the very edge stitch. But on a sleeve, you can't really pick up the very edge stitch and have it look nice, I don't think. At least it didn't work with this yarn. Mm-hmm. It looked horrible. So I just picked up in from the edge. Okay. So there's like 1 stitch worth of seam on the inside. And it probably gives it a little more stability.
Well, and I've heard, too, that you just, I know the socks, you slip the first stitch on the knit side. I think on the purl side, you don't do it. When
I do.
Oh, you do?
I slip on both sides, yeah. Because I want that slipped side to be able to pick up.
It's been so long since I've made a sock, I can't remember what I do. But I've heard on the sleeve, did you slip the first stitch on the sleeve? Okay.
No, because you've got decreases.
Oh.
There's the bottom part of the sleeve that's bound off, edge, flat, horizontal. Mm-hmm. And then you've got these decreases going up the side. So anyway, there just wasn't, it didn't pick up nicely.
But now you're happy with it.
Very happy with it, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I just went in a little bit from the edge, and I've got a little bit of a seam. The sleeve is big. I'm making the size medium, but I made the sleeve, the armhole, bigger.
Yes, because you have such massive armpits. We all know this about you, Kelly.
Right. Exactly.
You have the arms of a linebacker.
Well, it's so ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I really do think that whatever the design, they have like design sheets that say okay, for this size of a garment, this is the size of the person's armpits. Mm-hmm. I think they're wrong. I just think they're wrong. I think they have just decided that this is the decade of the toothpick arms and because every single garment I've bought recently has armpits that strangle me. And I think it's not just the knitting designers, it's just the garment industry in general has decided that stick-like arms are the new normal. And honestly, maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe if I were, in my 20s, I'd have stick arms, but I don't.
Well, I mean, we've talked about fit before, but and about the sweaters that I made in the 80s. But I don't know that people have skinnier arms now than they used to. But I think the style is to have very close-fitting clothes. Yeah. Everything is very close-fitting now.
Well, and how do you wear a sweater over something else if the arms are so tight? I've had a little bit of a struggle with the arms to make these arms big enough that I can actually wear this sweater as a sweater, like a cardigan that goes over something else.
Free the armpits. We need to start. Let your armpits be free.
Yeah, so I worked hard to make these sleeves a size that will work for me, and I think they're going to work. I've been trying it on as I go, and I didn't do all the decreases that it suggested. This is the thing, I started with a size large sleeve on a size medium sweater. Mm-hmm. And then, even though it was a size large, I didn't do all the decreases. It's like, my arms are not really that big. Oh my gosh. It's from all that board erasing. That's what's caused this. So that's the end of my project report. Lots of fleece work, dye work, only a little bit of only one project knitting. I'm at a point where I need a project that's easy because I have a trip coming up. So I'm going to have to be doing some planning in the next couple of days. I leave on Friday to go to a conference.
All right. So Kelly, tell me about the wool auction.
Oh my gosh. So fun. Yes. So Labor Day, Monday, was the wool auction. And I had gone to the fleece judging. It was a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. They do that first, and then they have the auction. And I knew what I wanted. I wanted that Santa Cruz Island fleece.
Yes, I know.
it had been the reserve breed champion. So they, had judged all the different breeds of sheep. And then they took all the first places in all the breeds and put them all against each other and then chose the best of all the breeds, which was a merino fleece. It was a very nice one. But then his reserve, his second place of all the breeds, was the Santa Cruz Island. And I talked about it last episode, how he went on and on about this Santa Cruz Island fleece. And I really wanted it because it's a rare fleece. I haven't spun one before. I haven't had a Santa Cruz Island. I've heard about them. And so, and then he also was very complimentary about it and thought it was a very nice representative of that breed. And so then, I guess it was the week before, so the fair just ended, so maybe not last Friday, but the Friday before, I went and my job was to sew down all of the handcraft items in the room before the fair started.
Sew them down? You mean to the table?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, they were all like on display. But they're out in the open. They're not in display cases. And so so I took fishing line and a needle, and I sewed them all down. There's like tablecloths on the table. So I sewed things to the tablecloth, and then some of them were in baskets, and I sewed them into the basket. There was like baskets of skeins that people had entered, and so I ran fishing line through the skeins and in the basket, just so that nobody could just walk away tempted, with anything. Yeah. So I went and did that 2 Fridays ago in the afternoon before the fair started I think the fair started on Wednesday. And while I was there, of course, while I was in the wool room with all that wool, I had to go back and look and touch and smell that Santa Cruz Island fleece again. So I had seen it again after the fleece judging. And I really did want it. And that was pretty much the only one that I really wanted. There were a couple of Jacobs that I've not been too tempted by Jacobs in the past, but these two were pretty soft. And at our fleece auction, it's really nice. Patty, remember you met Patty last year?
Right, okay. And she was at Black Sheep. We met her at Black Sheep
Yes,
again,
and she was also at Black Sheep, yes. Well, she takes a lock of every one of the fleeces that's in the show and washes it, and then it gets stapled to a board. So you can actually see the length of the fleece, the length of the locks and how it looks washed up compared to what it looks like in the bag. And that's really nice. I mean, it's an amazing amount of work that she does to put that together, but it's really cool. And these two Jacob fleeces on the board, when I felt them, they're like, oh, these are nice. So I studied the board a lot, and then I went and looked at all the fleeces that were out on the table before the auction. And so I knew I was going to bid on the Santa Cruz Island, and then I also thought, well, maybe I'll get one of these Jacobs, because I also have never spun a Jacob. And I thought they were really nice and soft, where some Jacob is one that's really variable because because it is a more primitive breed and also a more rare breed. The fleeces are more variable. Okay. And I think the same is probably true of the Santa Cruz Island, that the fleeces are more variable. There's not as much of a breeding program, right, to make them all consistent. So those were the ones that I was kind of interested in. There was also an Oxford fleece that I haven't ever had or spun an Oxford fleece. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll bid on that one. And a Montedale fleece. And I thought, well, maybe I'll bid on those two. Those are both medium wool. They weren't super soft. But they weren't the coarse long wools either. More like the downy breed. The Oxford for sure is more of a down breed, kind of really disorganized crimp. So anyway, I had my plan, and I brought my spinning wheel, and I was spinning and listening to the bidding, and I didn't get the Jacob. Someone else wanted it, and they were bidding, and I thought, no, I'm not going to I'm not going to go that high.
And let them have it. They really wanted it, so let them have it, right?
That's right. It wasn't the one I really wanted.
Yeah.
And then the Oxford, same thing, and the Montedale, same thing. There was somebody else, I bid a couple of times, and then that was it. I was done. And then we got to the Santa Cruz Island. and I thought, okay, I had my price that I wasn't going to go above. Mm-hmm. But then I knew, because the auctioneer would do this, he would say the price and then he'd say like $1 more. Mm-hmm. And then if the next person wouldn't go $1 more, he would be like, well, okay, what about 50 cents, So let's say the fleece was going for $12 and he says 13 and nobody's giving him 13. So then he'll go $12.75. And he'll kind of see how it's going. And so when you think about it, it's like, oh, well, at one point he said to somebody, it's only 25 cents more. Why don't, come on, bid. It's only 25 cents more.
Right. And but it's 25 cents per pound, but how many pounds was that fleece?
The Santa Cruz Island was 4 pounds.
Right. So you're 25 cents.
Yeah. So
$1 more, right?
Yeah. So I had my bid, what was going to be my maximum in my head. But then I also knew that if it got there, what's 25 cents more?
Right.
It turned out I didn't have to even go close to my maximum bid. Mm-hmm. In my head maximum bid. So I got the Santa Cruz Island fleece. We had a little bit of a bidding war. It went back and forth for a while with Sue, who is also in the Ann's Web group. Mm-hmm. And then finally she was done, and I got it. Yay.
And she thought Kelly really wants this. I'm just going to let Kelly have it.
She came over to me afterwards and she said, I'd like to, when you've got it all washed up, can you bring some of it in so I can see what it's like all washed? Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, sure. And she said, I was interested in it, but it wasn't like I had my heart set on it or anything.
Yeah.
And I said, well.
So I have a question about the Santa Cruz Island, because weren't they from churro stock? Do I have that right?
Yes, merino. They think that they came from merino and churro.
So I have a two-part question. First of all, I felt the churro. Remember the Navajo churro that we felt? It was spun into yarn down at that one booth at Black Sheep Gathering, and it's really rough because it's meant for carpets, right?
Yeah.
So my first part of my question is, what's it feel like? Is it more on the soft side or more on the rough side?
No, it's more on the soft side. It's not a primitive fleece like the churro that has the long wool. Mm-hmm. And then has the shorter undercoat. It's not like that at all. It's more of a fine wool. Of course, it's not fine as merino, but it's probably finer than most. And that's probably one of the reasons that the judge really liked it, because he was a judge who really went for the fine fleeces. I mean, it doesn't feel like a merino, but it's not like a churro at all.
Okay, and then the second part of my question is, my understanding, the Santa Cruz Island, these sheep they sort of became feral sheep.
Yes.
They were left there. And do you know, well, actually I have a couple, it's more than just the second part of my question. Who left them there? I mean, who brought the sheep to the island? And do you know who brought them there and who left them? And then whoever had this fleece, raised the sheep and this fleece, they don't have that sheep did not come from Santa Cruz Island. They've now,
correct.
They brought sheep to the mainland and are raising them?
They removed the sheep from Santa Cruz Island.
All the sheep? Or
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
They were destroying the vegetation, and they had to be removed. There's a whole article, and I read it, but I don't remember all the details. I'll link to it again in the show notes for this episode. But I believe it was in the 70s or 80s, maybe the 80s. I think they took the last of them off the island.
Okay.
And then there are some sheep breeders in California who have them. And the shepherd for this one is Lynn Moody, and it's Blue Oak Canyon Ranch. And she has a really cute blog post on her website where she went to the fair and actually saw that her fleece got a reserve. Mm-hmm. And it's really cute. It says, Almost as an afterthought, I entered a Santa Cruz Island fleece in the Monterey County wool show, as I have several times in the past. Now, see, I don't remember seeing one ever before, but maybe I just didn't know what I was, didn't recognize what it was. So she had this fleece that she had a longer than typical staple length. She wasn't able to attend the judging, and so she went actually to the fair to see how the fleece and the 3 skeins of yarn she entered did. Much to our delight, the fleece won first place in the Breeds Division Other class and won reserve champion for its division. It was displayed prominently and wonderfully, and I think will do a lot to promote the Santa Cruz Island sheep breed and their wool. The judge was very kind, rated the fleece excellent on everything: cleanliness, weight, uniformity of crimp, strength, character of fleece, and color. Except staple length, he rated it good for staple length, and he wrote dreamy, fine, soft, very little waste on the scorecard. So she was really excited. Her name is Lynn Moody. The sheep's name was Lucia. She was very excited about winning, and she has another blog post on her blog with some videos from this past week where they were moving fleece on the hoof, moving sheep.
Yeah.
So people can see what the sheep look like.
While we've been talking, I just looked this up on Wikipedia, and it says here, it does nowhere in the Wikipedia article does it say who brought them to the island, but they're brought in the mid-19th century, most likely of Merino, Rambouillet, or Churro breed. This is by the 1860s, thousands of sheep grazed freely on the island, and throughout the 20th century, ranching declined on the island, and most of the sheep became feral. In 1978, the Nature Conservancy gained control of the island, and sheep numbers around this time were estimated to be over 20,000. And what they did is they just actually slaughtered them. They removed some of them, and they slaughtered most of them. And it says, but you have a really rare fleece, because today they number fewer than 200 animals.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but it doesn't, so it must have been just ranchers brought them to the island. I don't know, but it doesn't say who specifically brought them.
Yeah, the article that I linked to in the last show notes, actually, I think did talk about who was ranching on the island. There was a family, maybe I should read our own show notes, Kelly. Well, I read it and I don't remember, so.
Okay, all right, I don't feel so bad then.
Don't feel bad. So, yeah, that auction was my favorite thing. And then, one cool thing, I met a young woman from San Francisco. Her name is Jane. She's actually on Ravelry. And I, was talking with her a little, and she was very confident as she was sitting there that, I'm a new spinner, and this year I'm watching. Because I'm a new spinner. I'm going to just watch this year. And I kept thinking, I can't believe she's being so restrained and she's not buying anything. Well, do you see her later with 6 bags? Well,
Lisa's no.
Come to find out, she didn't even have a number. So that was her strategy, was, don't even register and get a buyer number, a bidder number. But what she found out while she was sitting there is that anything that goes no sale, and there were a few that went no sale. Anything that goes no sale, you can buy it after the auction at the minimum bid.
Yes, I do remember that, Kelly, because you remember after the auction we walked through and there's just all the bags. There were not a lot, but I don't know. 15, 20,
right?
Not that many,
and we were tempted, right?
We were tempted. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. So she bought something then.
Yes, she bought She bought one of Terry Mendenhall's merino fleeces.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So she got a really nice fleece, and I believe she actually sent it off because Sherry from Morrow Fleece Works is there, and she just takes people's fleeces right from there to process. I can't bear to part with mine, so I bring them home. And then if I send them out to be processed later, years later, maybe. But I bring mine home. But anyway, I think she sent hers off to be processed. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. A new spinner is now a new fleece buyer. It's very exciting.
Well, or addict. Let's be honest.
Fleece addict, yes. So next year, there were a couple of people who were hoping to get to the auction this year. Fran and Tracy both had mentioned that they were hoping to get here this year, but maybe next year. So maybe next year I'll have a little more company at the auction.
Well, and maybe next year I'll come down.
Yeah.
I thought about it this year, but this is not the year to come down. So but maybe next year I'll come down. Because last year I came down there and it was really fun. Well, very cool. Well, I'm excited to see now what you're going to do. Well, have you thought actually about what you're going to do with it? No.
I haven't really. I just wanted it.
And that's totally okay, just to want it.
That's right. Well, I'm going to spin it. Marsha, I'm going to spin it. What are you going to make? I'm going to make yarn. What are you going to do with it? Put it in a bowl.
Everybody asks that question, and if they have to ask that question, they just don't understand.
Right. That's right.
I'm
going to make yarn, and I'm going to put it in a bowl.
Actually, I'm trying to think. The fleece we bought last year, the two that we divided, I had those two processed. Mm-hmm. And then, what else did I buy? I can't even remember. I remember I had to have them all mailed home. Okay, this is really bad, Kelly. I can't even remember what I bought down there. Oh, my God, that's terrible.
Those are the two that we split. You got something on your own, just yours. Was it? I don't know.
Oh, gosh, this is terrible. I can't even remember.
Well, we'll have to edit this part out and
Oh, no, just leave it in so that everyone will know how pathetic we are. Anyway, okay. Well, so any more to say about that? I think is exciting. You know, and the other thing I have to say too, the whole auction adds a certain element of excitement too. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think you probably sort of experienced a little bit of it too, which I experienced last year. Is they see someone new there who wants to. Well, you're not new, but I mean, I was new last year. Someone new bidding on something. Oh, let her have it. You know, there really was this feeling of the Anne's Web members really wanting people who showed up there at the auction just to buy it. You know, they really were willing to just let people buy it, you know, and they weren't bidding things up to...
There were a couple of fleeces that feeling was not abounding.
Oh, really? Okay. Maybe I'm so oblivious, I thought it was also...
But for the most part, that is true. But there were a couple of fleeces. One went for $27 a pound, something like that.
Oh, wow. A lot.
Yeah. That was a pretty good bidding war going on. And it was one of the fine fleeces, and it was a gray. Mm-hmm. I believe it was a gray or a variegated. But that was really popular. That one went for a really good price. They actually have been trying to get a better attendance at this, and part of it is publicizing. Mm-hmm. Because it's a part of the fair, it gets publicized by the fair, but the fair doesn't. Honestly, I don't think the fair does a very good job. I tried several times to get a link to the information about the wool auction, and all I could get was the PDF of how do you enter a fleece. Mm. And there's a page for the fair that says wool, but there's nothing on it. And so the Anne's Web group did put some ads in Ravelry this year, and I think they might be doing a little bit more to publicize it next year. Because it's the only auction in California.
Yeah, and I mean, last year, I don't think it was really that well attended, given the number of spinners that are in California.
Right.
You know, in the
2
area.
to 3 dozen people, I would say, this year.
Yeah.
You know, mostly from the Carmel Craft Guild and Anne's Web. And a lot of them are weavers. So, you know, the Romneys and the long wools are popular. But, yeah, it's not as well attended as I would have expected it to be. So, and part of it is just publicizing it. Part of it is the date, but I have a feeling a lot of it has to do with just how well or not it's publicized by the fair. And so the Anne's Web group has been working at trying to get a bit more publicity for the fair, so that's good.
Well, now I don't want to stop you, is that everything about the wool auction?
Mm-hmm. That's all the wool auction excitement. I do have other excitement, but if you have something else...
No, I was just getting just a little mention. I was just thinking as I was preparing for our conversation, I was just sort of thinking about upcoming events in the fall.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew a couple I knew I wanted to do, but I couldn't remember the dates. So I just went online to look up the dates, and I just wanted to put it out to people. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners know about this website called knittersreview.com, at the Clara Parks website. But I just wanted to mention it again because it's so cool. You can find all kinds of wool, fiber, yarn, knitting, crafting events all over the world. On this one website. I just wanted to throw it out there again. It's cool. You can find, and it's fun to plan for things that you can do in your area, but then it's also kind of fun to dream. I'd like to go to Denmark for they have an event. I'd like to go to Scotland. I would like to go to Paris. I'm not, but I would like to. There's 3 events that I'm going to do. I'm going to participate in this fall. I'm just going to mention them. So what I was interested in doing is the 20th annual Oregon Flock and Fiber Festival. It's at the Clackamas County Event Center in Canby, Oregon. That's September 24th and 25th.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
actually thinking about going to that. There's also the Nordic Knitting Conference with Arnie and Carlos. And that's at the Nordic Heritage Museum in Seattle. And that's actually just a couple blocks from my house. And I heard about this event back last November. The Nordic Heritage Museum always has a Yule Fest. And I went to that festival and I picked up a postcard about that Arnie and Carlos were coming. I went home immediately and sent an email because it said, send an email to this address to get more information to sign up for their class. I immediately went home and sent an email, and it's already full. Could not get into their class, but I still am going to go down and check that out. And that's October 8th through 10th. And last year, I went up to Fiber Fusion at the Evergreen State Fairgrounds in Monroe, Washington. And that's October 15th through 16th this year. And last year, I went up there. There was a fleece judging, and they sold the fleeces, and that's where I bought the Gotland.
Oh,
fleece,
right.
Mm-hmm. Which I've done nothing with, so... Given our conversation about the wool auction at the Monterey County Fair, I cannot buy anything. But I thought, they have a whole class schedule, and what I really thought I would do this year is actually take a class. Because, I haven't taken any classes last year I didn't take any classes at Fiber Fusion. I did not take any classes at the 2 times I've been to Black Sheep Gathering, so I think it would be really fun to take a class. Well, actually, I take that back. I did last year take a class from Judith McKenzie about picking up fleece. Mm-hmm. But I noticed the class that she's teaching is full already, so I won't be doing that. But anyway, I think I'm going to go up to that. And then November 11th through 13th is Knit Fit at the Ballard Community Center in Ballard. Also my neighborhood here in Seattle, so I'm going to go down to that. But Kelly, this is the one that we need to do. I don't think this year we cannot do it because you have plans, but October 6th through 9th is the 20th annual Trailing of the Sheep Festival in Ketchum and Haley and Sun Valley, Idaho. And I looked it up, and it's a 10.5-hour drive from Seattle, so I will not be doing it this year because I think this sounds like a fantastic event. I'm putting it out there to people. Maybe they've heard about it. I don't know. I had never heard of it. But they actually drive sheep down the main street of, and actually, I've never been to Ketchum or Haley, Idaho, so I don't even know what these towns look like. But they drive the sheep down the main street of town.
How cool.
I know. And they have sheep herding contests for dogs. They have cooking classes and all this lamb eating recipes and cooking classes and restaurants and feeds and picnics and just a whole celebration of sheep, every aspect of sheep. And it just looks awesome. I really think we need to go.
Fun.
I think we really need to go. You just need to quit your job so you can go.
Well, I'm thinking about applying for a sabbatical, and I was trying to decide whether it should be fall or spring. It sounds like maybe I should have a fall sabbatical so I can go to the trailing of the sheep.
It seems like a lot of the festivals happen in the fall. It seems like just looking at the calendar.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, a lot of them happen in the fall. So I think you need to take a sabbatical. And what we'll do is we'll just go all over the world going to, because literally looking at that schedule, you could be in a different city every weekend and go to some sort of fiber, wool, something.
Okay, and we also need to win the lottery.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's get to work on that. But anyway, so but I'll put a link in. I'll put a link in the show notes. I'm sure people know about this website, but it is just kind of cool, and I just wanted to remind people of it because it is kind of. When I was looking at it today, I got kind of inspired and a little ramped up. Like I need to start participating in some of these things, And it just made me want to book a ticket. Fill up the car with gas.
Idaho.
Yeah, right. I'm not excited about a 10.5-hour drive to Ketchum, Idaho, but I'd be okay with the 2 hour.
You could fly into Boise.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you would just
and
drive
then rent a car.
Mm-hmm.
Rent a car. Yeah. Anyway, and I even thought, I know you can't go this year, but I thought maybe I'll just go on my own. But that's never fun going on your own. So I will just wait until you take your sabbatical, and then we'll go.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the only thing I wanted to mention. But you have exciting news about your bees.
Well, yes, but before I say that, I am going to talk about a wool event because Lambtown is October 1st and 2nd, and I will be there. I don't think they have trailing of the sheep.
Oh.
But they do have sheepdogs and lamb to eat and all that. And I convinced Robert, because his birthday's at the end of September, I convinced him that we're going away for the weekend for his birthday to Lambtown.
To Lambtown. Okay. I'm not sure what kind of a birthday gift this is to him, but he's happy to go away. So
I think so, yeah. So we're going to Lambtown. We'll be there October 1st and 2nd. So if any of our listeners are going to be in Lambtown, look for me. Say hi.
Now, are you taking the trailer or camping?
No, I did look to see if they had camping at the fairgrounds, and I think they do. But then we talked about how hot it could be, and our trailer is small and no air conditioning, and it's not like a campground that has trees and things where you camp.
Okay,
under the trees. It would be a fairgrounds parking lot type camping experience. Okay, so similar to the Black Sheep Gathering camping. Yeah. And so
hotter,
much hotter. And so we decided we would just go and stay in a hotel.
Okay.
So
cool.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Exciting.
Yes.
Okay. So now bees.
Yes. The most exciting thing happened to me on Friday. This past weekend was like beyond exciting. This Labor Day weekend with the fleece auction and this thing that happened on Friday. So I'm knitting along on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. And Betty calls us down to dinner. Of course, I say I have to finish this round.
Right.
So I finish my round of my sleeve, and I stand up, and I look out the window of the sunroom toward the fig tree that's in the middle of the lawn. And I see this brown. And when the fig leaves start to turn, there'll be like big brown patches where the fig leaves are brown. But this was not the shape of a fig leaf, and it was also the tree is mostly green now. I mean, it's not turning at all. I was like, "What is that?" And I look, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I have a swarm! There's a swarm in my backyard." Now, mind you, my hives are dead. I have no bees, except if there are bees in the tree, feral bees. There's a feral hive in the tree, but I can't count those as my bees because I'm not keeping those bees. They just happen to live on my property. Right. So I'm down to no bees, and I had talked to somebody about possibly buying some bees, but that didn't work out. Anyway, I'm running down the stairs. There's a swarm in the backyard. There's a swarm in the backyard. So we go out. Poor Aunt Betty, her dinner gets left on the table.
I know. I was going to say dinner has to wait.
Yes. So I go out. We look. Robert gets the ladder. We get the pruners. He prunes off the branch. I get the box ready because I have boxes out there waiting for swarms to move in. and nothing has happened. So I grab the box, I bring it over, put it up, and then he cuts off the branch. So he hands me the branches, and I shake them into the box. Very cool. I have a video. I will post the video. So I posted on Instagram. So maybe.
Yes, I saw the video, and I thought it was. it was awesome. It looks like all those videos I've watched on YouTube of people, dropping the swarm into a box.
Yes, like real beekeepers, right?
Like real beekeepers. Yeah, Kelly, you're a real beekeeper.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. And it's a small swarm. It was not that many bees. Maybe, I don't know. Not even 2 pounds of bees, I don't think. So it's a pretty small swarm. But I got them installed into their box. I got the box located into the place where it needs to be. I've been watching them like crazy. They're bringing in white pollen, which I think at this time of year might be ivy blooming. Mm-hmm. And then I also had some frames that had some honey in them from the box that died. One of the boxes that died had honey. And then I have a jar of honey that I had been saving to feed bees with, but then I didn't have any bees. So I've been feeding them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's really exciting. They seem to be, I haven't opened the box yet. I haven't looked inside. But they seem to be active, and it's the most activity I've had at my hives since March, I think. I mean, this has been just a really bad, my bees just never took off this year. Mm-hmm. So these look healthy. I'm hoping that they're from a feral hive, like maybe they were a swarm cast from the tree.
From the feral bees that you have on the property, you think it's a swarm from that? Like maybe. That one, it split? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it might be that. I mean, it's also possible that there's a beekeeper somewhere in my neighborhood that I don't know about, and that person's hive split. I'm hoping it's from a feral hive, but because you get better, the potential is there to get better genetics, more resilient genetics from a feral hive. Very exciting. Cool. Yeah, I'm So cool.
I was talking with a friend about your bees, the swarm, and of course under that little pile of swarm is the queen.
Right.
And the question was asked of me, and I said I don't know the answer, is how long does a queen live? If there's nothing to interfere with a hive, how long would a queen naturally live?
So if it's a bred queen, like a beekeeping company bred queen, they last maybe a year or two at the most.
Oh, okay.
Very short. Well, longer than any of the bees in the hive, but short. It used to be that queens lived like possibly 4 or 5 years. Maybe 4 years at the top end. And feral bees, they could last that long. But with the bees nowadays, what I've heard is that they usually don't last more than a couple of years. And commercial beekeepers requeen every year because the queen is the most, kind of like chickens, the laying chickens, operations that have hens for eggs. They start new because as a hen gets older, their laying capacity declines. The same thing with queen bees. As the queen gets older, her laying capacity declines. And so they want the commercial beekeepers want young, fertile queens that are going to be laying at their maximum capacity. But just because of pesticides and miticides that they use to kill the mites that have problems with, that cause the bees problems, the queen bee's lifespan has decreased on average.
So if the queen dies, does the hive die, or do they create another queen?
Well, if they have eggs, they try to create another queen.
Okay. And
usually they'll do it before she dies. They'll do it when they decide that she's not up to snuff anymore. And so they'll, yeah.
It all sounds like, I was going to say, it all sounds like a Shakespeare play to me.
Yes. So she's not doing good things for the hive, and so they will take an egg and they feed it in such a way that it develops into a queen. And that might be then the start of a swarm, because then they'll split and the old queen will leave with half the bees, and the new queen will stay. Or they might kill off the old queen and let the new queen take over. Or the new queen might kill off the old queen. Yes.
I said, now that really sounds like a Shakespeare play.
Yes.
So your swarm, I don't know how long you stayed out there to watch, but you dropped those bees into the box, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, I know typically, half the bees stay with the queen and the other half goes out to look for another place to live.
Right.
So you dropped the queen and all of the bees that were protecting her into the box. Did you stay out there long enough, or over the next couple of hours, did you see if the other half came back?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of activity, and we left the top of the hive open, so there were bees on top who were fanning and releasing a pheromone. Mm-hmm. From there, they have a gland that releases it's called Nasinoff pheromone, that is the signal to other bees that this is where they are. And so that basically calls all the other bees to that place.
Okay.
By the next morning, then some of them get left out overnight, and so they don't return until the next morning. And so the next morning, there was a small clump of bees on a leaf in that same vicinity. And so I took that leaf and moved it over to where, because by that point I had moved the hive, and so they weren't going to be able to find. Well, they might have, but it wouldn't have been as easy to find because it wasn't just right directly under them. And so I took that leaf over and stuck it in the front of the hive. And this was the amazing thing to me. I had been watching them earlier, and they'd been going in and out, I brought this leaf over, and I don't know how they knew, but it was like instantly. The moment that leaf was anywhere near the hive, all of a sudden, some bees came out and started fanning. And releasing that pheromone. Like, how did they even know that this little teeny clump of bees was coming? It's like they were ready to call them in as soon as I brought it over.
Yeah. I think this whole communication between the bees is so fascinating.
Yeah.
And I also think it's so, I'm laughing about it being like a Shakespeare play, but I think it's interesting that everybody is very clearly defined and what their job is in the hive.
Yeah.
And no one has... Well, you did say they sometimes will go and kill the queen, but it's really not like a Shakespeare play. I mean, they're not doing it. They're not doing it to get ahead individually. They're doing it to get ahead as a colony.
Right. Everything they do is for the colony. Yeah.
For the colony. So even though they may kill the queen, they do it for the good of the colony, not for individual gain. I mean, does anything in the hive happen for individual gain? I don't think so.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. It's all for the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is an interesting thing. Is if you think about each individual bee as being like a cell of an organism, it's like nothing in an organism isn't doing a job to keep the organism alive. So like the actual organism is the colony. But really it's made up of all these other little organisms. It's so fascinating. I just love it. The whole idea of it is cool.
And so do they know how they're communicating?
I think they do. I don't know.
Do scientists?
Do scientists know? I thought you meant the bees.
No, the bees know how, but do we as human beings, do we know how they're communicating?
I think we know a lot more about bees and how bees communicate than we know about other insects. Bees and ants, the colonies, have been studied a lot. But I don't think they know everything. I mean, I'm sure they don't know everything about it. It's pretty fascinating. Like there's that book Honeybee Democracy that I was reading that is written by a guy from Cornell who has done a study on how once they swarm, how do they decide where to go? And how do they make a decision as a colony which of the new homes to select? And it's actually like a voting process. It's amazing. It's very amazing, this book. Fascinating.
I'm sorry. What was the title of the book again?
Honeybee Democracy.
Okay.
They actually vote on which one, 5 or 6 bees go out, they find a place, they come back, they do their dance to tell other people where it is, other bees where it is. The other bees go and look at it, they come back, they tell everybody what they found, and they vote on where to go. Unless a beekeeper intervenes and says, no, you're going in this box.
Sort of like a Shakespeare play.
Right. Yeah, so funny. It's amazing. Well, and then the other fascinating thing about that book, Honeybee Democracy, is that he would take a group of bees and he would label them all with numbers. So they all have little dots on them, little numbered dots. Just that part of it fascinates me. Like, those
would be very tiny number dots.
Yes. And can you imagine?
No.
I mean, okay, I understand that science is like 95 parts tedium and 5 parts really exciting stuff. But can you imagine being the research assistant who has to like put all the dots on the bees?
You're like, my job is what?
Exactly. You get to put dots on bees
and I'm sure those bees really want to have those dots put on them.
Yeah. But you can't put dots on them and have them sting you, because if they sting you, they're dead.
Right.
So you have to make sure that the dots get on them without being stung.
Wow.
The whole thing just boggles my mind. But yeah, it's been a very exciting bee week here.
Yeah,
and I'm
so
very
cool.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Swarms at this time of year, there's not a good chance that they'll make it. But our climate is pretty forgiving.
Well, you have such a mild climate that you have things blooming.
Yeah.
Almost year-round. Not quite year-round, but almost year-round. So, unlike where I am, it's a little more challenging.
Yeah, and also because I'm in town and not out in where they're relying on native vegetation, there's a lot more, like ivy, rosemary. There's a lot more to choose from. Eucalyptus. So there's a lot more out here that they can get. That's in people's yards, a lot more variety and stuff. So I'm hoping, some of the beekeepers in the area have actually said that for us, August and September are like winter. Those are the times when there's nothing for them. So I'm feeding them. So just in case they're not finding it, elsewhere, they can get it from the bucket of food that I have out for them.
Yeah, very cool.
I'll keep everybody posted. I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's going to be very interested to hear how they do. So, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Every week we say, "What are we going to talk about?" We have nothing to talk about, and now here we are at the end of our podcast. How many minutes are we into it? How many hours?
An hour. Yes, over an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to edit this down so it's under an hour. Thanks for the bee update. I'm excited about the bees.
Oh yeah. Anytime.
All right. Yeah. Okay. We will talk later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us.
Doing our part for World Fleece.